Bentornati. Allora, in questa sessione donne adesso è con noi
In this lay session devoted to women, we have Luca Barbareschi, producer, actor, a great supporter of the Teatro Eliseo in Rome. And before having him tell us, talk about women in his life, but also the women that he considers relevant in his private and professional career, I would like to really try him, put him to the test on a few things, because the world, the showbiz is really suffering due to the pandemic, as we were saying before. The new decree of the Prime Minister has just come out with stricter measures, and
well, we can say that the word of the showbiz has died for the time being. And we have to tackle the true problem, which is live shows, which requires huge investment. And we haven't been done that for years in Italy. There is no long-term cultural policy in Italy from the strategic point of view and also from the industrial point of view. And really, the misery and the scarcity of investment in Italian theatre is huge. We invested 15 million euros on the National Theatre Eliseo, and seeing the reaction of policy to that, I realize how blind they are. When in France they made some choices on theatre, they decided that they had to work on the French language from the Italy reform afterwards, and also on the indigenous language, 1 billion euros. That's how much they invested in France on cinema. The Polanski, I produced Polanski, I couldn't have done something like that in Italy. In Germany, they really worked on cultural Länder. Just one German theatre in Stuttgart takes twice as much as the whole Italian theatre gets, which means that there is a strategy to build places of excellence. Unless you have some ensemble, that you can't work. Why do you have the Berliner, for example? And I invite you all to go to the online and watch a documentary when, during the direction of Perlach-Nacht, Schoenberg, you see the camera moving backwards and there is no conductor for the orchestra. So talking to the first violin, they say, don't you need a conductor? And they said, Ich bin Berliner, we are the Berliner. We then of course we play by ourselves. Then if Muti and Abbado come, of course we definitely interpret with conductors, but we know how to play by ourselves. So investing means to invest in quality, to invest in training. We are so lagging backward that this pandemic has really meant just giving out some very little money, some almoney, and my colleagues are slaves and subjects to the government in office, and I'm you see always outside, and I think out of the box. I'm not like them. You see, what happened is the Prime Minister celebrates the return to Egypt instead of the escape. Well, I was shaken. I can't be a slave. I can't be a subject, because we stopped that 5,000 years ago. So what the problem is we have to try and do something that is innovative for our theatre culture, and this requires investment. But investment cannot just be peanuts, because otherwise we become schnorrer, like we say in Jew. We then turn into beggars, begging for money. And this is the issue nowadays. The technicians realize this. Mostly in Italy, they have put out all their boxes just to demonstrate in the Duomo Square. But you see, for example, the Piccolo Theatre in Milan, it took them 6 months to appoint an artistic director. We have no director of fiction at the RAI, the Italian broadcasting company, and we spent, you see, 6 months there. And whereas the over-the-top, like the Huns, they're coming they're invading Europe and colonizing, we don't even talk about this. We don't even think about Italian fiction, for example. Italian fiction is an integral part of universities, for example. And you see, if you talk about theatre only, it's just a small part of the pie. Closed closed theatre are a damage, everlasting damage for the community, because in the theatre, so you re-elaborate things for the community. Unless you rethink this, you see, you can't possibly think of electing a mayor in Rome of Milan. The Milan mayor needs to have a sense of community, and only from culture can the life in the country restart. And I insist that, I say it once again, I'm a Jew, but you see, the people of the books, why have we had the Jewish tradition for 5,000 years? Because it is a re-elaboration of a non-dogmatic book, a cultural re-elaboration. Well, you partly answer this question, but I'm thinking of the latest decree vis-à-vis the capacity of cinemas and theatres. You see, many presidents of governors of the regions, they wanted to start the distant learning for schools, for secondary schools. Well, this is a country of fools if you open discos and clubs and not schools. It is a country, I say again, of fools. I don't understand why I can fly Alitalia, one sitting next to each other, and I can't sit next to each other in the theatre. You have to set rules. Yesterday, I was reading that you have to wear the face mask unless you're running. You see, you will see people strolling or trotting a little bit, and when it becomes questionable, are they running or not? I'm running a bit fast, so I can take my face mask off. Everything can be interpreted in a different way. So there is a problem here. So, you see, my wife's mother died from COVID, so we had really a loss in the family. But you see, my grandfather went through the First and the Second World War. So someone had to come out of the trench. Either you die of hunger or someone comes out of the trench. There is no zero risk. So maybe this is part of a generation that did not live through the war, and they thought they can always live a life in eternal beauty. Everybody is happy, drugged up. Everybody is rich, but this is not the case. Life is complicated. We live, we make hardship, but we take on risks. I want to go to work with caution, and maybe finally we stop coughing in face of people. And in the past few years, we have lost good manners, and we've been coughing on the face of people. But any virologist, you see, might explain to you that this face mask is not so useful. So if you keep a distance, you do not spit in face of others. So we have to keep working. I think the social life has to go on. I was listening to the professor earlier when he was talking about the money that we need to get. The responsibility of communication is huge. There is really a foolish communication. What about the money? Nothing. We will get nothing. And the professor is right when he says, let's do like Mr. Basoli said, Saint Basoli, let's do something that is meaningful immediately for the Italian economy. Otherwise, everything boils down to a political debate, but it is really a poor one, because you can't really have some illiterate people there. They don't know where Albany is compared to Africa. And I was part of a high-level meeting of a US foreign minister with an Italian representative, and I felt sick, really, because Italy is not like that. Italy is full of really smart and clever people. It's not possible that its representation is lower than the real abilities and capacity and skills of the country. It's unacceptable. Well, Luca, let's talk about women now. Now, of course, you can roam freely here. You can say whatever you want about women who represent some sort of milestones in your life. But recently I read that in an ideal ranking in your life, who were the women that were most important? So your grandmother, your mother, and your current wife. Why? That's right. I don't know where you read this, but I didn't have an easy life. I lived near Gallarate in Milan, and I was looking at a sort of hill of garbage outside of the window, and to quote the professor earlier, rich and poor would mingle and mix. There was normal life there. And I have to be thankful to my mother because she left immediately. When I was 6 years of age, she said, "I'm leaving with your younger sister." "Where are you going?" "To Rome." "Why?" "Because I'm filing for a divorce." Said, "What about me?" "Well, we can't all go to Rome, can we?" And she was very funny because she was a funny Jewish lady, my mom. And I said, "Yeah, no, of course, we can't all go to Rome." And then I didn't see her anymore. This was a lesson of life. Lesson of life is you have to make a do, and you have to find a solution by yourself. And my grandmother, she was one of the first graduates in economics. Her father was, he played the clarinet, Saverio Fine, a very funny man, a friendly man. And she was forced, my grandmother, to get a degree in economics because she was a very pragmatic woman. She gave me some golden rules on how to live, especially life is hardship, she used to say. It is hardship, and then maybe if you have some spare time, you can have some leisure. This has never deprived me of passion, of happiness. It gave me a drive for life. And since she could but teach and lecture during the wars, but then when she retired, she wrote 20 novels, not literally valuable novels, but she would say, if I had studied literature, I would have been the new Ada Negri, an important lady poet. So, but my father forced me to study economics, but I'm a happy woman because I get up at 5 and I write my novels. Nobody will read them, but they're important to me. And the idea of the relationship with art, like something that should, make you blossom and grow inside at any age. And my grandmother was a woman full of love. She was a sort of overweight lady, and she was doing the dishes while teaching Latin to me. Or maybe we were preparing meat cutlets, and she was correcting me on the consecutio temporum in Latin and on how to butter the meat. For me, Latin means buttered meat. And I loved women a lot, and I have 6 children because of that, and 4 girls and 2 boys. And women are superior beings. They are magical. Very often, I lied to women I was with, but you see, they would always catch me. Maybe I was on the other side of the world, and just out with my voice, they were able to tell that I was somebody else. And I was saying, how could she? They have a sensitivity that we don't have. We don't understand whether our wife is betraying us, cheating on us, whereas they are witches in the beautiful sense of the term. With my younger daughters, I grew up a lot thanks to them and the way they look at me, how pure they are, and how demanding they are, they are of love and attention. And then I heard somebody talk about Saint Teresa of Lisieux. Ida Magli, an anthropologist, was an important woman for me in my life. She taught me to grow up with intellectual honesty. And also Marguerite Duras. I worked at a theatre with her. She was a brave woman, a pained woman, a troubled woman. And she wrote in a novel about her love for a young boy, and she taught me how you can love with passion even when you're 80. You can be in love with someone who is extremely younger, much younger than you. I could talk about really many female writers, Ursula, for example. I'm an avid reader, and I owe a lot to literature in my training, because my life was a very solitary life, a lonely life with my father, who is an engineer, so definitely not a man of many words, and I would spend hours reading, and the reading of many female writers was very comforting for me. So I don't know whether this is true, but this is a country that is really pained by the fact that the children are very much attached to their mothers. What do you say about this? Well, when my mother left, she gave me 100 years of solitude. I don't know whether this was a joke, but it was a very clear message about my future. But I can say I'm thankful to my mother for my whole life, because she taught me to stop complaining, to man up. And there's a song saying, whilst you are the absurd in person, you wake up old and you talk to people about your false accident. So you have young people spending life with psychiatrists and shrinks and saying, because of what happened back then, whereas I can say, if I'm famous, I'm wealthy today, and I have a very good resume, I owe this to the fact that my mother left me. So maybe you should stop basically complaining, roll up your sleeves and start working. And I spent some time at the kibbutz as a young boy, and I think that 3 years of military service in Israel is not so bad. So when you are one on the bus and the other one on the other bus, because you don't know which brother will come back alive, and then there's a terrorist attack, you have a different relationship with life. You see, sometimes life can be a cheat, a joke, and it can be painful. So I think that today, I think that politically correct thinking is the tumor in the brain of Western culture. The difference between being politically correct and mafia is that mafia gives you an offer that you can't refuse, and the politically correctness tells you something that you can't really understand. You never understand what they mean. The result is that today we have American universities imported the worst from France through Canada and re-exported to France, an idiot way of thinking. So when you study Caravaggio in the Ivy Leagues, after a lesson on Caravaggio, you have to go to a pampering room where, and I'm not joking, where you basically cuddle a pet and you start licking and cuddling the pet because you are in anxiety, because you were violated by the painting of Caravaggio. After that, you have a rehab room. So what generation are we raising? A generation of total idiots, somebody who does not have the ability to look at Caravaggio paintings, or maybe no Metamorphosis by Ovidium because they violate and breach the 20-year-old ladies. Maybe they have been drugged up since when they were 16. I think we should go back to a more politically incorrect attitude, a healthier one, where we get back to culture, whether it is literature or culture, removing this being good at all costs. And being good at all costs of many politicians is bad. And about politics, because you also were a member of parliament, among the different lady politicians, is there a fil rouge? Well, about lady politicians, what I was hit by is that they have a lack of romance. Pure politicians, well, they like to fuck for power. They love power. They want to seduce men in order to grab power. I am a romantic old pig, so I'm saying this jokingly, but I'm very romantic. I like erotism very much. It must be romantic, though. I was shocked because women, they would judge you for how much you counted, how much you were worth. At one point, I was to become a minister because Fini was saying that I could have been a minister for culture, but I always turned this offer down. But also they thought I was dangerous. But there was a whole range of women in the parliament who were courting me, and because they thought I was good looking, but also because I could have power. And then they basically left me. And for me, and I was a famous actor, you see, I was transparent to them, and it was a shock. And this was a common attitude, both if you, for the left-wing or right-wing lady members of parliament. Yes, it would be fun to write a sociological funny book, well, not of gossip, But you see, because this is the worst thing in the world. But if we could write something to monitor how all the different dances, hierarchical political dances happen in the parliament, and where the only ground is power. There was no passion and no ideology behind them, just a question of balance and of power. And it is really a pity, because power gives you nothing. The difference. The thing is, I could have never been a good politician because I believe in ideas, whereas politicians have an obsession on the ideas of power. Whereas I think of the power of ideas. Before, you were telling us what some important women gave you as a legacy. What did you give them? Well, intellectual honesty, maybe exaggerated, especially when I wrote my biography. My current wife was very upset, because she said it's too detailed. We didn't want it to be so detailed. But explaining to my children that I am what I am, also after taking drugs, after being wrong, but I never stole anything. I've always paid my taxes, but I did hurt myself. But I did it because I wanted to say to my children that you can do something wrong and you can get up again. Mohammed Ali taught me this during an interview when I was with Gianni Minà, and I was a sort of sidekick of Gianni Minà, and I interviewed James C. Jack LaMorta in the box world, and to Mr. Ali I said, well, so we basically fought a little bit, and I was about to die after one of his fists, and he was saying, get up, get up, get up. So I got up and I said, now you're a champ because you got up again. So you are a champ if you are able to get up. I was 18 or 19 back then, and it was one of the most important things, and the champ that gets up again. And it is right to fall down. It is important to fall down and get up again. What do you mean? What do you think when they say that there's a great lady behind every great man? Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. I had 3 important women in my life at different ages, but they were different, always important. The first case, we were too young, second one too crazy, and the current wife I have, she's a special lady. She's from Calabria, first of all, and this opened up a world to me that I didn't know. There are 800,000 community members of, people from Calabria, and they're very pig-headed and stubborn. I'm always the king of possibility, whereas in Calabria, people from Calabria, they say one thing and that's it. So these are philosophical, cultural encounters. Very funny. And is she able to talk you round? When she has good grounds, she never gives up, and I'm grateful for that, because I am very exuberant, and it's not easy to be with me. And she has made a better man out of me, and I'm very grateful to her. One question that I asked to Mr. Savelli too. If you think of a woman recently in any field, politics, finance, culture, who do you think of? Well, honestly speaking, I think of the ladies working in healthcare. You see, the other day I went to the hospital because of a small accident, and a lady doctor examined me, a head doctor, and she was so smart and sensitive, and also at pains because she couldn't give straight answers. She's a scientist, and she was trying to speak common sense. I saw a pained lady, but a passionate lady, full of love. So I dedicate my thought to her. I was reminded of the iconic image of the worst months in the pandemic, of that nurse that fell asleep on the computer. That shows really the fatigue and the never-ending shifts to save people in hospitals, but this is something different, actually. Any women that we neglected in this quick talk? Important ladies for you? Well, I can only say what I think. My sister, I haven't spoken to her for 2 years. I love her to death. And I don't know why we haven't been talking for 2 years. I'll call you later. What happened? Well, when my mother passed away, she wrote something terrible on the will, and I said, but why should she write something unpleasant about me in her last will? And my sister, I know that she had a saying in this, she had influenced her. Well, there are many common places in this country. So when we talk about women, we mention very often the fact that, first of all, we need equal wages, and then we need to break the crystal ceiling, the glass ceiling, more women in power. When you hear words like this, what are you reminded of? Is this politically correct? Is there an awareness that we need to attach more importance to women? Well, I have never liked the so-called pink quotas, the obligation to have a set number of women in boards and so on and so forth. So, and I've never accepted this. And all these women, they needed to be, I don't know why they always invited me to these debates. And I would say, but listen, you were a whore, you were a prostitute. What about, why are you fighting for these ladies' quotas? Because, for example, Nilde Iotti never spoke about this, and Ida, also on March the 8th, she would say, why should we celebrate one day in the year? We should celebrate every day of the year, which is the celebration of intelligent women. So it is just a con, I would say. And you see, the only thing women should do is should give a good example. A lady who wants to be a lady, she needs to respect her body and not maybe disfigure herself like many women do. The problem is between what they say and what they do. I don't think that it can be solved by assigning a specific shares to women. It's really imbecile. And I say this because I have 130 employees and 80 of them are women, and I do it by default, but not because I'm obliged by this law, but because women are smarter. And say, unfortunately, of course, to the detriment of us men, because they work longer, but I never chose them because I was obliged by the law to have a set number of women, but because they were smart, they spoke many languages, they have 3 children, and they turn up in office earlier than others. Yes, I'm reminded of a wine lady entrepreneur who said to me, I only have women in my company, we can't find a man who can work with us. But it's true. Well, we saw the other day on the news a cleaning company, and there's nobody who wants to go to work there. You see, I've cleaned loos my whole life, and I'm proud of that. I'm really glad of cleaning toilets in restaurants because I would make my livelihood there. And I was thinking about dignity of work. I was a dignified man because I was making my money. And it's to seeing that a company at a time like this, where cleaning and sanitizing is so important, how come they cannot find people and workers? You know, I would send the army to them to force them to work. You know, if you remember the First World War, they would shoot to make you come out of home and go to the trench. So it is important to really highlight the dignity of work. Work is something dignified. We are all the same. We were maybe lucky in a different way, but work gives you dignity. To ply a trade, even cleaning the floors, gives you dignity. It's absurd. And very often, you see, I had interviews with young people saying, so what about the parking places in this area? I said, yeah, you see, I live in Nomentana and I need to find a parking for my car. And I say, I was looking for something closer to home. So there's a vision of the world of labor where, maybe we should do remote working. Well, we are doing that, actually. Yes, but not everybody works with remote working. I see it now in my office. Some people really perform fantastically from home. Others, they need to be forced. They need to come to the office. It's different. There is no fixed rule. And we really need to think about this because people are going crazy sitting at home alone. And I was reminded of what Professor Savelli was saying. You see, it's very useful. Well, humility, you see, is a very tiny word, but it is the key of life. It's the key of relations. I meet someone, if I'm so humble as to listen to them, I will have an advantage there. Humility of seeing beauty in the gaze of others. The humility of understanding that it is time to remain silent. The humility to understand that it's not your time. It is an important way of living. You see, we come from a delirious hubris. Well, let me stop here. I'm old and boring. I want to stop. Well, on the contrary, one last thing. When you see, they say that women have replaced men. Well, I experienced America of the top feminine arrogance, and I saw the mistakes, the aggressiveness, an excess of aggressiveness. Males have a problem. I don't know, can I say anything that springs to my mind? Well, males, they have the penis, and Ida Mali was obsessed by that. If a woman looks at your penis, even if you are very gifted, and she says that it is a small penis, you see, you are dead, basically, because it's a huge issue to men. If a lady becomes aggressive, like I see in social media, where young girls post photos of their boyfriend's penis, teasing him because he did not raise to the occasion. So what happens is that boys end up with the 50-year-olds. And so the young girls, they basically come to me. Because at my age, I would not react to a joke like that about my penis. So what's the problem there? Is to find a balance where femininity, or maybe we should reread the Symposium by Plato, what the masculine and the feminine is, which has got nothing to do with homosexuality or transgender or LGBT. Each and every one of us has a feminine and a masculine part, a very delicate one. And the combination of two people is the mental balance between masculine and feminine aspect. And it needs respect from both fronts. And that's why today I talk about an escapist homosexuality, which is a fear. I know that if I broach this kind of topic, you see, it's dangerous. I don't know if you read the new rules by the Academy Awards. I have to make a movie now if I want to go to the Oscars, where you need to have a dwarf, an LGBT+, an aggressive lesbian. So if I, for example, set my movie during the First World War, I need to have 9 transes coming out of the trench. Well, no, you need to have them if you want to go to the Oscars. Then you need to have 2 black dwarfs. How can you not have 2 black dwarfs? So it's really dementia, and it has reached such extent that you see a lady comes up to you and she says, come on, fuck me, and try and be good at that. Unfortunately, we don't have any remote control, and so you can't react to that. So we need to redress the balance, also in erotic good manners, sweetness, sensitivity. And everything is wonderfully and poetically complex. And these things should be part of a culture There is a culture we're not moving towards, because the simplification and the politically correctness is the end of all this. I would have never thought with Roman Polanski, with whom we did The Pianist and who won the Oscars, and loads of other movies. I was locked in a van in Paris, where the Minister of Equal Opportunities in France, called Schiappa, she told me, "We will kill people like you males, you rapists and patriarchists." And there was the police there with the tear bombs. So we will burn your movies and we will burn the music like Beethoven music. And I said, Beethoven? Yes, it is a classical rapist music. So with this reasoning, we have to dismantle the Sistine Chapel, because Michelangelo was not very normal, Caravaggio, Mozart, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, a domino effect of idiocy for what should triumph? A group of Nazis, basically. But this happened in Paris 6 months ago, whilst I was winning the César with a lady minister of equal opportunities, who was insulting me. You see, I'm very proud to be a patriarchist dad of 6 children. Thank you, Luca Barbareschi. As usual, very generous and frank. And this is the good of Forum Pulire, enjoying really people that come here and speak out of the box. Thank you, Luca. Thank you. And have a try and enjoy your work, although you work in the showbiz. We should change the showbiz. In the state budget, the FUS should be moved from 70 to 1 billion. It would impact by 0.003%. It is a political issue. A politician should take on the responsibility to see how our country, what our country look like in 20 years' time. So, as usual, let's move on with our session. Now we take a break, and I'll see you later.